it is me back again for another little update. It's been a couple of weeks since I popped on and checked in with you guys to see how you're doing, how your summer's going, and to let you know what I've been up to. I've been stitching, I've been knitting, I've been crocheting. That's about it, really. Other than working and keeping up with the regular household stuff. So I have an iced coffee. It's 24 degrees here today, and I'm roasting right now because I'm wearing a crocheted top t-shirt that I made, and I wanted to show this to you. We'll get to that in a few minutes, but summer has finally landed here, I think. It takes a long time for us to get summer in Newfoundland, and when we do, it is very short, and we don't tend to get it when everyone else gets it. Like, our spring will last right up until some point in June, and then midway to late June it starts to warm up, and then we're into July before we start getting any nice weather at all, and by September it's already cooling off. So our summers are very short. So what have I been up to? Let's talk about cross stitching first and foremost, because that's why most of you are here, I would think. So where I left off, I did an update at the end of June and kind of said what my thoughts were for July. So for the first couple of weeks in July, I have been addicted to watching the tennis start off with, because I'm a tennis addict, and so I was highly involved, or engrossed I should say, in Wimbledon. And while the tennis was on, I was usually stitching. So then the Tour de France started, and I'm not a huge follower of the Tour de France. I kind of keep an eye on what's going on with it, but I'm not a cycling fan. Anyway, the Full Coverage Fanatics Facebook group decided they were going to do a Tour de France stitching challenge, and basically there are a couple of different house teams I think that you can choose. One is, they're all based on stages of the tour, so the days that they race, that they ride. You would stitch the same number of stitches as the kilometers the cyclists cycle for that day. So I'm not sure the other jersey colors, but if you pick Team Yellow, which is what I am, I'm on the yellow jersey team, then basically your goal is to stitch for every single day of the challenge. Another team, I think you only stitch the hill days, and another team is you only stitch the flat days plus the time trials, I think, something like that. Anyway, this is what basically the little calendar looks like for the month of July. It started on the 6th, and it goes right through to the 28th. And basically on the 6th, they rode 192 kilometers, so I had to stitch 192 stitches. And then on the 7th, they only did 28 kilometers. I had to put in 28 stitches. 214 on the 8th, 215 on the 9th. You get the idea. For every single day of the challenge, I have put in more stitches than what was required. I don't know what my total is so far, but I'm going to be well over the amount of stitches that are needed to do this challenge. What I'm using for the challenge is the Folk Witch piece. So I've got it on this lap stand because it's easy for me to stitch on outside on the deck or in the house or wherever I am. And because it's easier to count my stitches, I decided I would work on the green background, because the green background is, it's just straight stitching, and I can count my stitches and count my blocks as I'm going. Much easier than doing something that's confetti where I have to kind of you know, figure out my stitches in between. So this is, all of this green has been added during the challenge so far. And we're currently at what, the 17th of July. So I don't have my stitches done yet for today. I started them this morning, but I don't have them finished. So I will have to get those done. So that's where Folk Witch is. Yeah, it's coming along. Also, on the 13th of July, I did my Dark 13 stitching. And I am working on the Edgar Allan Poe sampler. And when I pulled it out, here it is. I got a nice little bit done. So what I did was I finished the moon right here, and then I worked in these branches across the top, and I worked in some more of this top border because I think I had turned the corner on the border but only went to about here, so I finished that. There you go. Okay, sorry about that. I just had my patio door open there and I didn't have the screen pulled across, and a wasp or something was flying in. I had to go take care of that. So I now have the screen across, and I've also pulled the curtain because the sunlight is, the dog is trying to lie in the sunlight. It's making her too hot. So the lighting in here has probably changed now, but we'll make do. So this is my Edgar Allan Poe piece, and that's how much I've gotten done. I've started the lettering right here, and this is 28 count, and that lettering, I don't know if that's going to focus, but that's going to be 1/1, whereas everything else is 2/2. So it's tiny, very tiny. So that's where I got to with that. So in between, so I've been doing my, working on Folk Witch every day for the Tour de France challenge, but I did not want to work on that and that alone for the month of July because I worked on it monogamously in May, and I figured I'd get burnt out on it and I wouldn't enjoy stitching it. So I pulled out, I think the last piece that I've stitched on so far for the last couple of weeks, I pulled out my End of Forest Grew by Rosewood Manor. So this is what the chart looks like. Okay, it's quite large actually. I am stitching it though 1/1, so it's going to be a little bit smaller. And the chart's quite a hefty little chart. It's like, it's a booklet of, I don't know how many pages, but anyway, I love their charts. They're very well put together. And this is where I am on that. Look how tiny, tiny little trees. So I think what I've added is this tree and this tree. I think this is not focusing right. I've added this tree and this one, and I've just started working on the bunny. And as you can see, that's all 1/1. I love working on this. It's a lot of color changes. Each tree is done in a different variety of colors. I mean, the same colors are used throughout, yes, but like, for example, I'll just show you this one page. This is the thread list just for this page of the chart. There's I think it's 104 colors in this chart. I'm pretty sure. So yeah, so that's where that one is. End of Forest Grew by Rosewood Manor. I love this. I'm doing this, like I said, over one. It's on 25 count. I think it's antique white Lagana. So there we go. So that's all of my cross stitch done. Now, knitting. let's talk about my knitting. I was working on my yoga shawl, which has since had a name change. It's now called the Everyday Shawl. And remember, if you watched my last episode, you would have seen me talk about how I wasn't happy with the fabric. My gauge seemed to be off, so I ripped it all out and I started stitching holding my yarn double. This is working out so much better. So this is the fabric. I'm much more happy with it. It's softer and squishier. Squishier? More squishy? I don't know. Those are the technical terms. So this is the Everyday Shawl. I'm gone back. I've started the chevron pattern, which I love. And yeah. So there you go. So I love this. I've gotten, that's how much I've knit on it. I still have 4.5 repeats of the chevron pattern to do. And then it just goes into straight garter stitch. No, wait now. Not garter stitch. Stockinette stitch. You just knit one side, purl the back. Knit one side, purl the back. So that's that. And then Joana over at Stitching the High Notes, I don't know if you follow her or not, but she has a YouTube channel for her knitting and cross stitching. She does some fabulous stuff, beautiful work. She also makes project bags and needle minders and stitch markers or progress keeps for your knitting. So if you're not following her, you should go check her out. She is actually hosting a summer make-along, a summer garment make-along, to encourage people to increase their summer makes, I guess, for their wardrobe. So I wasn't going to knit some things I was already knitting, but coincidentally, the same week that I found out about Joanna's Garment Mal make-along, I saw released by Expression Fiber Arts a free, well, it was free at the time. She releases patterns and they're free for a certain amount of time, and then you can download them for a minimal cost. I think the patterns are probably a couple of bucks or $5. They're not very expensive. So this, I decided I would do the summer garment Sow and I would make this t-shirt. So it is a crocheted tee. It's called the Cirrus tee. It has this peekaboo shoulder opening at the top, just a straight neckline, and I'll just stand up so you can see, but that's it. So I started this, crocheted and seamed it all up in a matter of like a couple of weeks. It didn't take me I probably could have had it finished before that, but I didn't have a huge amount of time to just sit and crochet. Plus I was stitching and knitting in between, but I'm really happy with this. I'm happy with how it turned out. It's nice sizing for me and it fits well. It's actually the same yarn that I'm making the Everyday Shawl from, only I just used it single, and I had to go down a crochet hook size or two to meet gauge, but it turned out perfect and I had no trouble seaming it up. It was great. Very easy. If someone is a new to crochet stitcher, this is super easy. It's basically a 4-row repeat of double crochets for 3 rows, and then a double crochet chain 1 for the 4th row. And you just repeat those 3 rows over and over and over until you get the proper sizing. And the pattern will tell you for your bust size or your overall size how many chains you need to start, and how many rows you would need to do to complete your garment. Super easy. So yeah, so I started this on July 1st and I finished it on July 14th. So it was exactly 2 weeks that it took me to do this. So there you go. The last thing I want to talk about is while I was away in Australia visiting Allie, I had already showed you guys some things I brought home, but Allie had gifted me this lovely project bag, knitting project bag. I love these handles, look, with the tape measure. She had gifted me this lovely project bag from Bombed Yarns. It's Bombed Yarns is actually a company in Australia, in Tasmania, I believe, that Jan from Thread Garden is part of. She's one half of this. I think she's one half of this. You can correct me if I'm wrong, Jan. Anyway, this is their card. It's Bombed Yarns, and she had gifted me the project bag and this beautiful indie dyed Australian merino yarn, which is 4-ply, which I think is fingering weight, if I'm correct, because I kind of had to look that up, and you can see how it's fingering weight, but it's like, it seems to be a little more plumpy, like it's a little cushier or a little fuzzier. I don't know how to explain than the superwash merino, let's say, that I have downstairs. Although this is a superwash Australian merino. So I wanted to come up with something that I have 2 skeins of this, and the skeins are 350 meters. I wanted to come up with something really special to use these 2 skeins with, and I didn't want to make a really slight little shawl, only having two skeins, because I already have one of those. And I found this pattern that's a cowl, and it calls for worsted weight yarn, but when I went in and looked at it, it calls for 201 meters of worsted. And if I hold this fingering weight double, so if I hold it together, this will produce like a DK weight. So I'm going to hack the cowl and make it in a DK weight, and I should have enough yardage because I have 350 meters of this, and the pattern for worsted only calls for 200. So I got like 150 meters extra. So I should be able to do this. So let me see if I can pull up my picture here. I just want to show you what it looks like. A project that I found. It's called Nautilo by Melanie Rice. I'll just show you. This is the cowl. How pretty is that? It's got this beautiful spiraling pattern on it. But like I said, it's done in a worsted weight, and I'm going to try and hack it for DK weight and hold this double. I stopped into the yarn shop here, our local yarn shop, that's called Cast On, Cast Off, and spoke to one of the ladies there, and she seems to think that it might work. Of course, she suggested I do a gauge swatch. So that's what I'm going to do. But I won't be testing that out until I get my everyday shawl done. But there you go. I have plans for this now, which is great. And the other thing is, I didn't have any purchases or anything really except for this. I also bought this at the yarn shop. It's called a Gleaner. It's for pilling on your fabrics when you knit, or if you have blankets or what have you. And basically it's this cool little hand tool. You don't need batteries to make it work or anything. And so here it is. And at this end you attach one of these 3 combs There's one for durable fibers like worsted weight or something heavy, bulky knit. One for something more medium like a DK weight, and then something like for very fine fabrics, like something that would be knit lace weight or something of that nature. And you basically rub this on your garment and it pulls off all of the little pills, you know, the fabric pills that where the wool gets pilly. And then it has a lint brush on the end, so you can just, as you get the pills, you just pull them off with this. Interesting. So I'm going to give this a whirl and see what happens. So there you go. That's my quick little update. It's 20 minutes, a little over 20 minutes. I'm going to go take off this warm t-shirt because I'm melting here now. I will edit this and upload it. Oh, but before I go, I almost forgot. I'm still running that giveaway. Okay, on my last video, I had a giveaway of a couple of different charts, as well as a needle minder that was donated by 4 boys and an NL girl, Patty. Thank you so much, Patty. And basically, you can leave a comment on that last video of what you want to be entered into the giveaway for. Or if you want an extra entry for the needle minder, you can also go to Instagram, follow me on Instagram, find my post where I posted about the giveaway, and put a note on that post that you're interested in the needle minder, and you'll get an extra entry for that. I'm going to do the drawing at the end of July. I decided to leave it open for a full month because with summer holidays and people being busy, I figured it would give everyone an opportunity to see my video where I spoke about the charts and the needle minder, and enter for the giveaway if you were interested. So there you have it. All done. I'm signing off. I'm going to go drink my iced coffee on the deck.